This talk is about the Antichrist, and I'm glad this room is full of a bunch of heretics and free thinkers. And because of my experiences in life, I noticed there was a whole bunch of stuff broken in this world. And we're at each other's throats, primarily through the brain-dead mainstream media, talking heads. Amen. So, through a man known as Jordan Maxwell, which would be the grandfather, he's taught this decoding the Bible for the last 50 years. Santos Bonacci, who knows and speaks and writes 8 different languages. Mark Passio, his website is What on Earth is Happening. And there's many others, and you've heard me talking during my little couple, interjections during the circle, that I believe we're living in Babylon. There's many videos that prove it. How's Babylon spelled? B-A-B-Y. So babies babble, and we can't understand what each one or other's saying half the time. I've been listening to an audio book. This woman's put tons and tons of time deciphering this. It's called I Am Raw, which is the power of one. And we're energy. Energy doesn't die. It just gets transformed. I believe in reincarnation. I'll say that if there's any atheists in the room, that the best book to read about reincarnation is called Journey of the Soul by anyhow, I can get that to you later. Otherwise, the audio book is on Michael Gear. Dolores Cannon has written probably 16 books on past life regression therapy. Holy moly. You want to hear people that committed suicide in their past life and what happened in their in-between life and how their guardian angels were there to help guide them across, and the in-between life is like a schoolhouse. And this is where I come in, where I said we're limited with our language, because in I Am Raw and past life regression therapy, these audio books, they have the doctor's voice, they have the patient's voice under deep hypnosis. And like Mr. Gear, Dr. Gear asked a patient, well, what happens when we commit suicide? We hear all this dogma from the Bible, and we're going to be condemned to hell and all this. No, it's not like that. There is no hell. And I know a lot of y'all have dissected some of the language in the Bible, and hell is nothing more than a dump that's on fire. So I don't think we're going to go to some place like that to condemn our soul to eternal damnation. I better get back on track to the best of my ability, because I can be long-winded, like I She's already laughing at me because I can talk on this for 18 hours straight. And at theater, I try to break brains because we need it. So, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We keep voting on left wing, right wing, left wing, right wing, and ultimately, I chopped a 7.5-hour documentary into the best of what I could do to contain it in 30 minutes, and it was still over 200 slides. So that's why I redid this one this morning. Cognitive dissonance. Does that resonate in anybody's head? So we can't hold two opinions at the same time. Oftentimes, when we hear something that goes against our belief system, we go kicking and screaming, and we condemn the messenger that's bringing us a different opinion. And like I said, I've gone deep in the pits of hell and all these different conspiracy theories. I'll start with conspiracy theory. The media loves to condemn conspiracy theorists. Where did that word start getting condemned? The assassination of JFK. And who brought it up? The CIA. Because nobody, there's a lot of people older than me that were living when that happened. I've read probably 9 books on the subject. I've watched probably 80 hours of documentaries on the subject. I believe the Bushes were very, very deeply involved in that with the CIA. The CIA runs our media. You've heard me say H.R. 5736, which was the repeal of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. It was signed into law or repealed by Obama in 2012. If you read the bill, it states that our taxpayer dollars are going to fund Hollywood and Disney and media, which most of these tax-funded media owns 98% of all this information that comes to us. We don't pick our race. We don't pick our sex. We don't pick our religion. We are born into this. Prison Planet, as the most, that word always escapes me. Dogs, cats, whenever we raise these animals to make them trainable, domesticated. That word always escapes me. But we are the most domesticated species on the planet, and we've been studied extensively for a whole long time. They know what frequencies they can hit us to make our reproductive system shut down. There's something called Codex Alimentarius. I'm not even going to look at this stuff. Codex Alimentarius was a UN directive back in the 50s, 60s to make sure that our food supply had proper nutrition. When you put man, which is the beast, in charge of something, they always go after profit. They are mining the minerals and vitamins out of our food to sell it as supplements. I've said before that the hospital legally cannot cure you. By law, they cannot cure you. because by law, they have to get their stock, the people who help fund all them, the stockholders, shareholders, by law, they have to increase profit every year. $400 billion taxpayer gave our cable companies to run fiber optic wires to everybody's house. Did it get spent? Not on what it was supposed to be spent on. Now we got everybody jumping up and down for 5G. Who in here has really looked at 5G? Anybody? Okay. I'm a beekeeper. 5G's already come and gone in 6 of the other developed nations. Come and gone. When you're getting microwaved, it takes, on average, 7 years before your cancer shows up. Especially when you don't have the minerals. Selenium. They don't talk about selenium. That protects your reproductive system. This whole coronavirus thing, it's bullshit. We've had coronavirus for 30 years. It's mutated, but a virus goes after a weak host. Look at grounding therapy. I love Dr. I was trying to say Maxwell and all these other things. Anyhow, this channel, I'll tell you, amazing. Every week he picks a subject like fermented food. He picked Naomi Corey, who had done 45 years into fermented foods after her child was born with autism. She realized that the autism rates exploded when we put refrigerators in our house. Our health starts in our gut. That's why when I got Rocky Mountain spotted fever and had to take these high doses of antibiotics, it doesn't discriminate. It kills the good and the bad bacteria. And it doesn't matter if you take prebiotics and probiotics while you're taking this stuff. It's slow death. Period. I am going to bring us back to some of the stuff that I put in here. Fluoride. You know about hydrochlorosilicic acid? The back of the toothpaste package says no more than a pea-sized drop. Contact poison control immediately if you swallow it. 1 milligram reduces your IQ 0.59%. And it's cumulative. We are being dumbed down on purpose. The frequency, the flash rate on the TV, you're looking at 24 images per second. They studied that frequency and studied that frequency for years, and they finally put a patent on it because it goes straight through, it misses your frontal cortex, so your cognitive and reasoning skills are diminished. We are literally being programmed. And then you look at the hypersexualization of the Disney Channel, Nickelodeon. I don't have any problems with transgender anything. But when you have everything we're using is weaponized against us. How did we win the first Gulf War in 3 days? Tesla Nikola Tesla, when he died, the CIA came in and the FBI and took all his stuff. The death ray, we have, if you read the patents on 5G, some of this stuff, voice-to-skull technology, makes your skin burn, you feel like you're going to catch on fire. And due to our police force getting all this military stuff every single year, number one, with our founding fathers, we weren't supposed to have a standing army. What happened in all these ancient civilizations whenever the king wanted total control? He sent out his minions to put a boot on your neck. That is what's happening today. Why am I angry about this? My mom died at 51 because of freaking healthcare fraud. Over 250,000 people a year die because of medical malpractice. One study I saw said the leading 2nd through 10 causes of death was our medical industry. High blood pressure is a hoax. When they give you the drugs to cure it, it's flushing out the minerals that you need to fix it. Statin drugs, when you put on statin drugs for high cholesterol, every cell in your body is replaced within 7 years. Every cell, your brain. The leading cause of death in European nations is Alzheimer's. We were told, probably you, older crowd, it was due to cooking with aluminum. I don't know how many people look at the sky when you're driving around, but they were darn sure spraying this morning. A condensation trail should be gone within 3 miles behind that airplane. I flew in the Navy for 20 years. That stuff, if you look up high altitude aerosol injection, most people call it chemtrailing, but you're going to be called a conspiracy theorist if you say chemtrail. They're even putting lithium in chemtrails now to help further dumb us down. It's got aluminum, barium, strontium. Each one of us has our own IP address. We have breathed so much stuff into us. Agenda 21 is the United Nations plan to map everything. The trees, the plants, they all give off a different frequency. This stuff is nano-sized particles, so it's being pulled up through the root structure of plants. And the Wizard of Oz can see how many oak trees you have growing over there. Speaking of trees, now we have to buy wood that's pre-baked so we don't get wood beetles spread out. That goes after diseased trees. Everything we've been taught is a lie. At the core. But back to fluoride. Aluminum Corporation of America paid lots and lots of money to have some fraudulent studies done through the Dental Association. It causes dental fluorosis. You'll see these younger kids, like my son, that have these white spots. It just looks like bleach spots. Or you'll see pitting. Or you'll see these brown lines through it. Osteoporosis, especially in women, now is through the roof. On the periodic table, fluoride is darn close to calcium. We take up fluoride and push out calcium, and that's why we're breaking bones so easy nowadays. It calcifies the pineal gland. By the age of 2, anybody in the developed world starts calcifying their pineal gland. 70% by the time they're 17 is 100% calcified. That's why I was naming this the Antichrist. Everything, our technology has been weaponized against us. And we want to lynch Trump, or we want to lynch Obama, and we want to lynch our politicians. Meanwhile, they got access to raw milk and the antidotes to all this stuff, and they got the best food and the best nutrition. Dumps, deep underground military bases. I don't know how many people have looked into that. Break out your smartphone sometime and look up the top 100 subsidies. Why the hell did we pay Nike $2.3 billion last year to fund slave labor? We can't even make shoes in America. I went and bought a case of toilet paper yesterday because the shelves are empty. 7 harbors in China have been closed for 6 weeks. The media doesn't tell you what you need to know, that most of our supplies are dwindling. Act of 1933, the Trading with the Enemy Act, clearly states that the American people are the enemy. That's why every single year we are put in another state of emergency. Why does that happen? So we can have martial law. Now with this coronavirus, they've even stepped it up beyond that, because when you're quarantined and they have, I don't believe in media, I don't believe, we know if you look how restrictive the media and internet is in China. How in the world does this happen and everybody's leaking all these videos out? I don't buy it. Dean Koontz wrote a book in 1980 talking about the coronavirus. It was made in Wuhan, China. That's called predictive programming. Predictive programming goes throughout our media. Look up predictive programming in 9/11. Comic books. Video games. Movies. Cartoons. I don't know what's up with the Simpsons. They predict all the deaths. I mean, Kobe Bryant. I mean, all of our media personalities and stars. So, fluoride was one of the biggest concerns during the Manhattan Project, because fluoride is a key ingredient in enriching uranium. And they have to use so much of it that it kills the vegetation in the area. All the livestock was dying. There's a town in Florida, I wish I had my slides. I had the pictures. Hydrofluorosilicic acid is used in mining phosphate. Phosphate is used to add, we use nitrogen, phosphorus, and calcium to our soil. Why did we start doing this? When did we start doing this? After World War II. NPK are bombs. We had so many bombs stockpiled, they wanted to get some more money out of it, so they took the bombs apart and they started giving the stuff to farmers to put on their field, and it made everything green, and it killed the microbiology in the soil, which, when you don't have the chromium in the soil and the fungi, it can't reach over here and get the other essential minerals. Magnesium Magnesium causes or controls between 700 and 800 different enzymatic functions in your body. 85% of us are vitamin D3, magnesium, most anything that's required. Let's look at table salt, that white table salt. Ooh, here in the South, people love their table salt. Get some pink Himalayan salt or some green Celtic sea salt from the cold northern waters where it's not full of mercury, and you're going to add 82 essential minerals and vitamins to your food. The problem with salt, they say it causes high blood pressure. It causes high blood pressure because they add aluminum into it, and it scars your arteries when it's going through your blood. So then you have cholesterol, which is doing its job by repairing the damage, and it restricts blood flow. When you make your pipe in your house smaller and smaller and smaller, say it's coming from your kitchen sink, and your kids keep throwing grease down there, it's going to stop eventually, and it's going to have a heart attack. Edward Bernays, I got to read this real quick. Awesome documentary would be How Big Oil Conquered the World. And you'll see how the Rockefellers and Rothschild and Carnegies and the men who built America, that was such a great History Channel documentary. It shows the other side and how deceived we were. They helped create the Federal Reserve in 1913. Our dollar has inflated over 98% since the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is not a federal entity. It's private bankers. The private bankers are behind the United Nations. You look at United Nations Agenda 21. One of their main goals is doing away with private property. March of 2018, Tullahoma signed into Agenda 21. That's why we have all these Publix and all these big corporate chains coming in, because it creates more tax revenue for your town. The bad thing is, they buy up all this property and they lease it. We had Bojangles last, 4 months? I bet they lease that property from now on. If you go to places like Knoxville, Nashville, store owners can't own most of these buildings anymore. Look at all the stack 'em and pack 'em housing units going in. You're going to rent until you die. Why are all these farms going away? Because they've taxed the farmer to death. He can't even save his seeds anymore because of Monsanto and all the patents on that. When I talk about us being born in sin, we're born into the beast system. And the beast system is this maritime admiralty law. People look at the Bible and they do not divide the word properly. God's law is the only law we should follow. Also known as natural law, karmic law. The criminals of the world have police officers and military personnel and doctors to keep their hands clean so that karma doesn't stick onto them. There are real driving, guiding forces behind this cesspool we're living in. And until we as a species realize that we manifest reality, we make things with our hands. This is the most scary freaking patent I read when you're looking at 5G. Like I said, I'm a beekeeper. All these European nations that took it out. Beekeepers were a big part of it because how do bees, how do cats, how do bats navigate? How do most of us navigate? Matter of fact, I could never get lost in the woods until 15 years old. I noticed I was having a problem. I could be blindfolded and spun around and ride in the back of a truck and be dropped off in the middle of the woods, and I would find my way out. We have receptors in our skin that are tuned to the magnetic of the world, of the earth. So bees can't find their way home. The 5G antennas that are in Nashville, you go up and there's probably a big pile of dead bees underneath them. Finally the honeybee has been nominated or pronounced the most important species. I'm the president of Franklin County Beekeeper Association, or Elk River. Tennessee losses have been averaging 65%. Hive losses, to 85%. I have all of us. It's mostly older people that are beekeepers. It's too much work. Our young people have had that flicker rate going through their eyeballs so fast. They don't want to sweat, which we need to sweat to get these toxins from our food and everything out of our system. Bernays, back to that. I just wrote all these different bullet points down one morning, and I made my slides, so there's no rhyme or reason for this, and that's why I was talking off. Where'd you go?
John, it's about 11 o'clock.
Okay, well, this kind of gets to the root of the evil. Edward Bernays wrote a book called Propaganda for the Rockefellers. Our fluorosilicic acid fluoride, before they found a way to sell it to us and put it in our municipal water supply, they were dumping it. It was killing fields, it was killing streams, it was killing everything in the fields and streams. Prior to that, Rockefeller didn't have anything he could do with gasoline because it was too volatile. They were dumping that gasoline on rivers and streams, killing everything in it. These laws that we follow protect the criminals. My dad helped design the radar system for the Harrier jump jet when he was 30. They have criminalized DMT, ayahuasca, 5-MeO DMT, which is a 5 to 8 minute trip that makes you see God and fear violating natural law against anybody. And I truly believe, if you watch the video about Mike Tyson, yeah, the guy that bit somebody's ear off, you watch him and his experience with DMT, you will think you're listening to a minister. He won't step on a cricket anymore. And if we made our politicians do a trip on that, they will know God and they will not make humanity suffer. Our pineal gland releases that DMT. And that's how you can decalcify your pineal gland. You look it up. People are having trips walking through the park where they're having these out-of-body experiences, and they're just, the world is so much bigger and brighter and better and loving when we stop listening to the media. I turned my TV off 7 years ago. I couldn't stand it anymore, especially when I learned how deceptive it is. So, in closing, the government, authority, people in authority are holding our chains and holding us in bondage. And maybe, if you'll have me back, I'll do one on natural law and how all that can take place. But thank you and bless you.